Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto discussion. Today, I want to back things up. I want to weigh in on a topic that has been on my mind for a few years now, and it's something I still see getting brought up from time to time when this character is mentioned, which is, where was Jigen during the events of Naruto Shippuden, and why did he wait so long to finally reveal himself and make a move? The lazy and low effort answer would be to say, well, Jigen wasn't thought of back then, which technically that isn't wrong, and it's actually halfway right, which I can discuss in another video on some of the things that go behind the creation of things that you see in Boruto. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to be talking about the in-universe reason as to why I believe that Jigen didn't make his move for over 1,000 years in universe in today's latest Naruto Explain video. So as we all know, when Kaguya came to Earth, she initially came with Isshiki as a partner, with the plan being that Kaguya, being the lower ranked of the two, would place the Koma seal on a compatible human and feed herself to the Ten Tails, while Isshiki watched over the chakra fruit in her vessel until both the vessel reached 100% abstraction in order to revive Kaguya and a chakra fruit could be harvested. However, as we all know, Kaguya would go on to betray Isshiki when he lowered his guard so that she could take the chakra fruit for herself. This resulted in Isshiki finding the human monk known as Jigen and shrinking himself down and going into Jigen's ear to possess his body and survive by feeding on the nutrients of his body while waiting for the Koma seal to finish extracting, which it eventually did. Yet, even after Jigen's body hit 100% extraction, he never made a move in retribution afterwards, even long after he would have had 100% extraction in Jigen's body, which at the max couldn't have been more than a few years. That would have been ample time to, say, confront Kaguya again, since we know she stayed around Earth long enough for her children to reach adulthood, yet Isshiki stayed in hiding his entire time. So why exactly was this the case? Was he afraid of Kaguya? After all, it might have been an off-guard feat, but the fact remains that Kaguya was the first person that probably left Isshiki close to death. So what exactly gives? I think the answer is right there in our faces. He just come close to death for the first time in his life, and due to the circumstances, he picked the wrong human to be the vessel. Now, Amado tells us in the manga that the single most important factor for an otsutsuki when bestowing the Koma was to make sure they choose the right vessel, basically calling it the most crucial step. It's as important to an otsutsuki as it is to make sure that when you start a car manual transmission, you push in the clutch when you're trying to start it up, or you put up the handbrake when you're actually parking a car with manual transmission. Jigen was Isshiki's path to sustaining himself, the only path at that, and as we would see during the battle with Naruto and Sasuke, the problem with Jigen's body is that it cannot use Isshiki's full chakra for an extended period of time without the body itself beginning to crack down. In fact, Naruto and Kashi and Koji both make it clear Isshiki is significantly stronger than Jigen, so Jigen's body couldn't even handle less than the full amount of Isshiki's chakra, let alone the full thing. While a large part of the reason why his body did crack down when fighting Naruto and Sasuke was he was playing around for way too long, something he literally tells us is a bad habit of his, I do think the fear of pushing Jigen's body too far played a role in waiting to bide his time when Kaguya was on Earth. The Kaguya who came to Earth wasn't the slender mommy MILF Kaguya that you saw in Naruto Shippuden's anime with the filler, which filler gets thrown in the trash. We don't talk about it. The Kaguya who came to Earth was the one with both horns and the Rinne Sharingan, which is consistent with how Naruto's manga depicted her when she came to Earth and how Boruto's manga depicted her in Isshiki's hologram that Sasuke found in that dimension, and the flashback when she came to Earth with Jigen was consistent with that. However, something major happened during this time. Kaguya had eaten a chakra fruit, and as we know, the Earth's chakra fruit has been stated more than once to be extremely potent. The genetic material of the chakra fruit on Earth is unrivaled, so there's an unknown boost that Isshiki had to factor in when he was inside of Jigen's body. Logically speaking, it doesn't make sense to engage Kaguya after she ate a chakra fruit when 1, the level of strength she possessed was unknown at that point, and 2, given if he did attack her, he would have played around with her in that fight, because again, staying in character, he plays around. Even when there's a time clock, like when Isshiki was fighting against Naruto and Sasuke and trying to put Koma back on Kawa Kawaki, he continued to play around. It's a bad habit. The risk of Jigen's body breaking down in the process was too great of a risk to take. Unlike the fight with Naruto and Sasuke, where it was a terrible matchup for the duo, enough so to the point that Jigen was mocking them, saying, "Are you done wasting your chakra?" Because as I went over in my Why Jigen Won video, every jutsu that you can think of, from Kirin to Naruto and Sasuke's Rasengans, they all get absorbed or shrank by Jigen. He was a walking hard counter. However, against Kaguya, there is no hacks advantage here. It's actually a very level playing field when you look at other things besides power. Kaguya possesses the Bone Ash Jutsu, which one hit can kill the target. She possesses Space-Time Jutsu, where she can launch attacks from all angles. Likely how she was able to split Isshiki in half the first time by catching him off guard. Even with the narrative making it clear that Jigen was physically stronger and Isshiki was even stronger than Jigen, those hacks that Kaguya possessed, they aren't the types of things that you can go into a fight and play around with that person, because Kaguya's whole repertoire basically came down to, can she land one hit on you? If she does, you're dead. End of discussion. In fact, her Rinne Sharingan will be able to see Jigen when he shrank down, similar to how Sasuke's Rinnegan could see Jigen and his Sharingan could see the color of Jigen's chakra, even when Jigen erases chakra signature. That doesn't remove the chakra from his body, it merely makes it impossible for a sensory person to track it. Kaguya had enough hacks to make up for any power gap that the narrative had set up, which is why it makes sense to wait. However, that brings us to the next issue. Given that Isshiki knew that Jigen was a defective vessel, why didn't he go after Kaguya's half-breed children? Surely one of them would have been sustainable at being a vessel, but them being 50% otsutsuki might prevent them from even being considered to be compatible for the Karma Seal. That's the first thing. The second thing, we literally do not know what the requirements are for an otsutsuki vessel. It's never specified in the anime. It's never specified in the manga, or even in the extra information you get in the physical copies of Boruto's manga. That's why when you fast forward 950 years after Kaguya first came to Earth, during the time that Hashirama and Amado are battling it out, that does give questions for, hey, why didn't Jigen go after one of the two reincarnates of Ashura and Indra? After all, they merely possessed the chakra of Ashura and Indra, but genetically, they weren't otsutsuki, so why not go after one of them, right? That's why I think we had the answer, and ironically, it doesn't fully come from Amado like most things with the otsutsuki clan that we learn in Boruto, but Amado does play a role here. So allow me to explain. In Boruto's manga, we see Amado approached by Jigen, and Jigen tells him that he needs his help to find a compatible vessel for Isshiki's Karma Seal, meaning that up until this point, he was not able to find somebody compatible, saying that, hey, if you help me out, then when Isshiki's reborn into a new vessel, he would grant Amado's wish to have his daughter's soul placed inside of her clone, the being that we know and love as Delta. However, why did he need Amado's help? It's just implied that he wasn't able to find a vessel at this point, but there's also something else we have to look at, since it's not directly stated, hey, he couldn't find a vessel before this. Again, the lazy, low effort answer is to say plot. Plot, plot, plot. But a closer read of the story actually drops a really big clue our way. There is a risk for using karma when a vessel is the one given the Karma Seal, not the otsutsuki. Allow me to explain. Boruto had Momoshiki inside of him, just as Jigen was someone who had Isshiki inside of him, but the main difference is that Momoshiki was dead and having his data extracted into Boruto's genetics, and his soul was literally attached to Boruto, whereas Isshiki was physically inside of Jigen. However, when Boruto was seeking a way to get around his fate as being used for Momoshiki's resurrection, Kawaki suggests Boruto should plant a Karma Seal onto Code. Code's body was partially rejecting Isshiki's karma. He had a weaponized karma, but he couldn't be used for resurrection, but they at least knew that Code's body could take karma to an extent, and as we know, the biggest thing with karma is finding someone who can actually take it, choosing the right vessel. Amado, when given this theory, largely ruled it out, saying there was no guarantee it would work, which again, Code already had a karma, but the two problems was that if it did work, Code wouldn't just wait around for Boruto's karma to extract and for Boruto to be reborn inside his body. Amado never discounted the possibility that a vessel planting karma on someone else could implant the DNA of that vessel itself. In fact, his own plan to use Kawaki to revive his daughter, Akebi, actually proves it, since Kawaki's current karma has her genetic data inside of it. So you don't necessarily pass on the genetic data of the otsutsuki who gave you the karma seal. Kawaki has Isshiki's data inside of him, but as we see here, Kawaki can pass on other genetic data should he choose to. That's the risk that Isshiki ran potentially. His current vessel was defective. He needed another vessel, but there is a possibility that with Jigen placing a karma physically onto someone would result in Jigen being the one with a new vessel and not Isshiki. That explains waiting for the technology to catch up and Isshiki approaching Amado from within Jigen's body, because Amado, if we go back to the manga, was helping Isshiki implant karma on multiple people, and the method to do so is that science mumbo jumbo that we saw. There were a bunch of tubes that were connected to these children, and there were all these fluids that they were bathed in. There were methods that were taken during this time, and I think that's possibly why Jigen was used by Isshiki to approach Amado, to find a way around that issue. Amado wouldn't have thought to use Kawaki's karma seal to revive his daughter unless he had some reason to believe you could transfer the genetics of one person into another person, even if you're not otsutsuki. Amado would have had some reason to believe that it could be done, and that explains why when he shot down the idea of Boruto making his own vessel, when you read it closely, it was mostly rooted in the question of, can you even place karma onto someone who already has karma? And if it did work, Ko wouldn't just sit around and wait. He never specifically shot down the concept of a vessel making their own karma, and a karma that's independent of their otsutsuki vessel. He never said, hey, if you put this karma onto Ko, you're just gonna make another vessel for Momoshiki. He never shot down that it will be Boruto's own genetic data. I truly believe that's the reason Isshiki didn't send Jigen out in the events prior to this. There wasn't a way to pass on the karma with absolute certainty that it wouldn't be Jigen who accidentally got a karma, instead of Isshiki being the one that gets the karma he wanted. Science actually cut down on that probability not happening. That, coupled with us not knowing what makes a compatible host, that could be our reason. While the Jubi Madara stuff might have been 30-40 chapters to us, so that would have been like 50-60 episodes in the anime, and that would have been almost a year for people reading the manga. For the characters in universe, it was only a few hours, and during that time Kaguya ended up getting revived, bringing Isshiki back to the original problem of not confronting Kaguya after getting himself a vessel. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on the topic at hand. I'm curious to know what you guys' thoughts on this are. While you think that over, click here to watch these Naruto Explain videos.